Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Minnesota.
This A's Twins series is brought to you by the all-new Chrysler 200, America's import. It may look like any other spectacular Monday night at Target Field, but it isn't. The Twins open a 4-game series with Oakland on Star Wars night, May the 4th. Be with you. And fans have arrived in all sorts of costumes for Episode 1 of the series. Chewbacca, among others. Wasn't Chewbacca once Wookiee of the Year? Great to see Master Yoda and his furry friends here tonight. Important night ahead for Phil Hughes, who failed to earn a win in April but has built a history of success in May. Hopes to break through with a win here tonight. Oakland will counter with Jesse Hahn, a fresh face on the A's starting staff. Lost a game here last August as a rookie pitcher for the Padres. We welcome you to Target Field and Twins baseball. And on Star Wars night, while it would be easy to throw out a bunch of puns and references, we like to think we're above that. But we're not. Let's set up this series with the Oakland A's. Twins fans this past week have watched the Empire strike back with a vengeance, as the Twins have been one of baseball's most powerful teams at the plate, averaging over 6 runs in the last 9 games. They'll be working on a sequel tonight. Every story needs a hero, and for the Twins, it's been Luke Skywalker. His friends call him Trevor. He's been in hyperdrive mode at the plate. 10 RBI last 5 games, a .421 average. Twins will be on the lookout for Oakland's most lethal leader, Darth Reddick, American League Player of the Week named today. His mission to destroy the Twins. What an evil enemy they face tonight. Up next, a pair of Star Wars historians, Dick and Bert, focus on Phil Hughes, who hopes his Jedi mind games will work on A's hitters. Hughes the Force, Phil. Hughes the Force.
Menards.
Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. And by the all-new Chrysler 200, America's import. On Monday night at Target Field, it's Star Wars night, and Phil Hughes hoping to pick up his first win of the year. Twins hope to follow up a good 4-game series with the White Sox with another one against the Oakland A's. And good Monday evening to you from Target Field. Dick and Bert with you. Opening game of a 4-game series. The Oakland A's nearly ran the table on the Twins last year. The Twins won 1 game, and that game was started by tonight's starter, Phil Hughes.
Yeah, that was the last time these two teams faced each other last year. Phil Hughes has some good success against the Oakland A's, but you know what? We've seen the good and the bad this season so far. Now, he hasn't had a lot of run support, but he's 0-4 with an ERA right at 4.5. And one thing we have seen is the good part of Phil Hughes, a 16-game winner last year for the Twins. Hopefully this, with the calendar turning into May, he can be a lot more consistent.
It's not just May, it's May the 4th, and therefore on Star Wars night, May the 4th be with you as the Twins hope to get this series started on the right foot against the Oakland A's.
Very nice.
And a special, unique night here at Target Field with the Twins hoping to extend a winning streak to 5 games. They did not have a 5-game winning streak last year. 1 4-game winning streak at home, a 4-game sweep over the White Sox, oddly enough. See if the Twins' good fortune and good play can continue. Bob Melvin has his team below the 500 mark. The A's 4 games below 500. And of course they got into the playoffs last year. We're in the wild card game with the Kansas City Royals, but he's been dealing with a lot of new players.
Oh, tell me about it.
And the first month or so, a bit of a transition for the A's. Here's the Menards batting order. Billy Burns leading off. Marcus Semien batting second. Then their hottest hitter, Josh Reddick. Then their coldest hitter, Billy Butler. Stephen Vogt, Ike Davis, Brent Laurie, Mark Hanna, and Eric Sogard.
And Phil Hughes will be facing that lineup, making his 6th start. Now, his last start against the Tigers, he left after 5 innings with a mild left hip flexor strain. So keep an eye on that here tonight. He said he's ready. He had a bullpen session a couple days ago. Said it feels fine. And against the Oakland A's, making his 10th career start. He's 4-2 with an ERA at 4.20 in his career against the A's.
Twins out in the field. Eduardo Escobar in left field. And with Oswaldo Arce on the disabled list today. We'll talk more about that later. Jordan Schaefer, Torrey Hunter, the other outfielders. Blue, Santana, Dozier, and Bauer, Suzuki behind the plate. And a first pitch slash to the left field corner. And Burns will have an extra base hit to get things started. A leadoff double on the game's first pitch.
Yeah, a lot of new faces for the Oakland A's. Billy Burns has been already 2 stints up with the Oakland A's. Kind of a slap hitter. Exactly what you saw right there. A young man with a lot of speed. His first career double. His first career extra base hit. Jumping on that first fastball and just going with it the other way.
We've seen teams do that a lot to Phil Hughes this year, anticipating a first pitch fastball over the plate, and he's had a lot of very quick at bats. He moves Semien, the second place hitter, in back off the plate just a little bit. Ball 1.
We'll be saying this a lot with the Oakland A's. Semien in his first season with the A's. Last couple of seasons with the Chicago White Sox.
Hughes with a nice pickup, and they've got the runner trapped off. A good rundown. And they got him, holding Semien at first.
I was afraid of Santana right there because Burns does have good speed, but what you want to do is run him back towards second base rather than to third. But Hughes getting this ball right in his glove, throwing it over to Santana. And then a very close play right there at third. Santana finally giving it to Plouffe. And Plouffe making the tag before Burns can get to the bag.
But you would rather the pitcher, in this case Hughes, run toward the runner and try to push him back to second base.
Toward second base, right. Yes.
All right, 1 down. A fielder's choice putting Semien at first, and here's Josh Reddick. Fastball up high, ball 1. But all fastballs. And all right, we've had we're into the 3rd at bat. Hughes has thrown just 4 pitches.
And that's Phil Hughes. That's why he can get into the 7th and 8th inning at times.
Can you throw too many strikes?
Yeah, you can. You can. I think what we've seen from Phil, his cutter hasn't been as sharp as it was last year, especially, going back in April. And then he'll mix in that slow curveball from time to time.
Now behind in the count, 2-0, throw to first.
I don't, what? I mean, you watch Greg Maddux, you watch Ferguson Jenkins, Catfish Hunter, the guys that threw strikes over their career, they were quality strikes. Phil Hughes pitches up in the strike zone, and sometimes that hurts him. Now that ball right there, Suzuki wanted that ball in, that was left out over the plate. And on an 0-2 pitch, Reddick was taking this pitch. You don't want to make that mistake again to Reddick because he has been swinging a hot bat, hitting .391.
Up high, now 3-1. Can see a .500 batting average over the last week and a half.
The Oakland A's have been able to score a lot of runs this year, and Reddick a big part of their offense, driving in 20 runs.
3-1 to Reddick. Semien again checked at first.
Oakland has a ball club, 14 stolen bases in 17 attempts. Semien at first base. He's 4 for 4 in stolen base attempts.
And a walk will send Semien to second.
A rare walk for Phil Hughes, only his 3rd of the year.
First and second, 1 down, and now Billy Butler. Hughes in his last start left because of a hip flexor strain. He left after 5 innings. The Twins had a 7-3 lead. Bullpen had a tough day against the Tigers. Hughes, staring at his first win of the year, saw the bullpen struggle. Twins ended up losing the game. And so there'll be some not concerned, but of course everybody will be watching Phil Hughes in the hopes that he can give the Twins 6 or more good innings. Inside ball 1 to Butler.
Yeah, Butler 0 for his last 20. Just 1 hit over his last 31 at bats, and he's hit into 7 double plays. That's the most in the American League.
He was more of a fly ball pitcher. Butler held out of the lineup yesterday. It was a high fly to the right field corner and into the seats.
Hughes has a streak going of 26 games, and this is this year, fewest walks this year, but goes back 26 games back to last year, where he has walked a minimum of 1 per start. You have to go back to June 6th of last year when he walked 2 Yankees in New York.
And under the glove of Santana, it rolls into left field, and the bases will be loaded with 1 out. Hard ground ball. And if it were within Santana's range, they might have been able to get a double play.
Just out of his range. Butler hitting this ball sharply. Butler, one of those former Kansas City Royals that has had good success against Twins pitching. And Santana, you can see it looked like he got a piece of it, but the bases are loaded with 1 out.
Made that play in the Chicago series and started a nice 6-4-3 double play. As it is here, they're loaded up 1 out, and Stephen Vogt, another of the hotter Oakland hitters. He leads the team with 6 home runs. Outside corner, beg your pardon. Tim Timmons, the home plate umpire, calling it a strike. So Hughes gets ahead. High drive to right field. And that is a grand slam for Stephen Vogt. And the A's get a clutch hit, something the White Sox were unable to do in their 4 games here over the weekend.
Now, home run number 7 on the year for Vogt. He has now driven in 24 runs. Well, between he and Reddick, they've driven about half the runs for the Oakland A's. High fastball. And again, you see Suzuki wanting that pitch in, left out over the plate, and Vogt did not miss it.
And now Ike Davis.
For Stephen Vogt, his first career grand slam. We saw it from Trevor Plouffe yesterday. The grand slam, his first in his career.
14 pitches, 7 strikes, and I think 14 fastballs. 2-0.
Ike Davis in his first season. Of course, the son of Ron Davis, who pitched here for 5 seasons in a Twins uniform, saved 108 ball games for the Twins. And Ike, born in Edina.
2-1. And now 2-2.
You know, for Hughes now, that's 7 home runs that he's allowed on the year, this being his 6th start. Last year, Phil worked 209 2/3 innings, allowed only 16 home runs.
Why do you suppose he's throwing just fastballs?
I don't know, and the control of that fastball is not there. So even that pitch right there, it doesn't have that little cut on it like he usually tries to backdoor that plate with that little cutter.
He's had a fingernail issue that has flared up when he's thrown. There's a cutter inside getting a foul ball, and Davis will try to walk it off.
Sometimes you just get out of rhythm, but you know, again, I've seen Suzuki even on that last pitch to Davis, he wanted it away and the ball left down and in, and Hughes usually has excellent control. You see where Suzuki is setting. He wants an outer half, and look at that little cutter going down and in.
Full count. Hughes has already walked one man this inning. Base hit to left. Twins had Santana playing behind the bag. And a very rough start for Phil Hughes.
Well, Oakland comes in. I say they've scored some runs, 131 runs in 26 games, and they're batting .266 as a ball club. That's fourth best in the American League. And Neil Allen, very early quick trip to the mound for the pitching coach.
Twins have scored a lot of runs as of late. The A's are right there. Neil Allen said his piece, has a parting comment or two for Tim Timmons. And the batter will be Brent Lawrie.
Lawrie coming over from the Toronto Blue Jays in his first season. Came over in that Josh Donaldson trade back in November.
Fastball hit hard to center. Schaefer back. And it's over his head. Davis had to retouch second base, and now they eventually will gain third and second base. And Lawrie jumped on a first pitch fastball and belted it to straightaway center field.
Yeah, I mean, that's Phil Hughes's reputation. He's going to challenge it with a fastball, and Oakland's doing exactly what they should. They're looking for that fastball right down the heart of the plate, just out of the reach. Actually in his glove and out of his glove. Would have been a great catch by Schaefer. Watch Davis right there. Steps on the bag, and he wasn't sure where he was, and then does step on second base and makes it over to third. So a double for Lawrie.
Have to bring the infield in here in the first inning. There's a breaking ball off the plate, ball one. Already 4-0, still only one out. Remember, the one out was a hard one hopper back to the mound that Hughes was able to snag and trap the lead runner. Another breaking ball off the plate, 2-0. Anthony's with a fastball. 2-1. This will be pitch number 25 already for Hughes.
Yeah, unlike Phil Hughes, 24 pitches, only 13 strikes.
Three and one. Eric Sogard, the number 9 batter, will hit next. Fouled away now, 3-2. Twins had to dip into the bullpen early in yesterday's game when Mike Pelfrey started but couldn't complete the fourth inning. And both Paul Molitor and Neil Allen have to be a little concerned with what Phil Hughes has shown them here in the first inning. Full count. A high chopper, and Hughes looks the runner back and gets out number 2 at first base. 2 down, and now Sogard.
Sogard, kind of one of the veterans here left in Oakland in his 6th season with the A's.
Breaking ball, and it's over for a strike. Pretty big at bat here. The Twins down 4-0, but we've seen them show the ability to score runs in bunches in this homestand. But it'd be an awfully big difference between 4-0 and 6-0 if Hughes can get Sogard here and do what he can to forget about what happened in the first inning and maybe start over in the second.
Sogard, pretty good contact hitter, 9 strikeouts and 73 at bats.
30th pitch of the first inning for Phil Hughes. 0-2 to Sogard. And flipped foul. Sogard just 1 for 11 against Phil Hughes. Fastball off the plate. One and two. The Oakland second baseman. Breaking ball inside.
I think he's thrown more breaking balls to the last 2 hitters than he did the first 7. So Neil Allen, I'm sure, coming out and saying, you know, hey, got to mix in other pitches.
All back. What looked to be a cutter. Last year and even this year, even though he doesn't have a win, he's kind of been the master of having the 12-13 pitch inning because he throws strikes. Hitters put the ball in play, and these hitters have certainly done that in this first inning. But on pitch number 34, Sogard's still at the plate, and there'll be a 35th pitch.
Yeah, even though Phil Hughes is 0-4 in 5 starts, he has not had an outing like this. The most runs he's given up in an outing is 4, and he's given up 4 early runs here. So hopefully he can get out of this inning and put some zeros up and keep the club in the game.
Three 2-strike fouls for Sogard, and now Suzuki will go to the mound. Hahn says, keep piling on, boys.
Yeah, these 2 guys faced each other last year when Hahn was with the Padres, and Hughes beat him 3-1.
To right field, it'll hang in the air for Hunter, and that puts an end to a disappointing first inning. And it started on the first pitch of the inning. Billy Burns cracked a double, and by inning's end, the A's had 4 runs. thermometer, and the Twins will try to dig out of a 4-0 hole. It's been a good homestand so far. Menard's batting order for the Twins. Brian Dozier leading things off. Then Torrey Hunter, Joe Mauer, Trevor Plouffe, then Kurt Suzuki, Kenny Vargas, Eduardo Escobar, Jordan Schaefer, and Danny Santana.
Well, the Oakland A's made a lot of trades. They got a lot of new faces, and we'll go over that over the next 3 or 4 days. But this is one new face here, Jesse Hahn. He came over from the Padres in the Derek Norris trade, catcher that went from Oakland to the Padres. And like I mentioned before, Hahn faced the Twins last year when he was with the Padres here against Phil Hughes. The only damage was Kenny Vargas' 3-run home run, and he lost to Phil Hughes and the Twins that afternoon, 3-1.
1-1 to Brian Dozier in that game. The Twins got the big hit. Kenny Vargas with a home run, a couple men on base. The only time the Twins beat the Oakland A's was with Phil Hughes on the mound in Oakland in the finale of a 4-game series last year. And missing 2-1.
The scouting report on Hahn, a fastball in the mid-90s, got some sink. When he's on, he'll get a lot of ground ball outs. Very good curveball. Just missed with that curveball to Dozier. We're mixing a slider and a changeup.
And he hooks one down and away, 3-1.
Hahn just making his 17th career start.
Tap foul, 3-2.
Straight over the top. On at 6'5", about 190.
Dozier, Hunter, and Mauer trying to answer with at least one run in the bottom of the first. And flip foul over the Twins dugout. Dozier's average has climbed to the 240s. Twins right now as a team 5th in the American League in hitting.
Yeah, Brian had a great series against the White Sox, but a lot of Twins batters did. 7 hits in 19 at bats. He had 368.
And Dozier taps another one foul. Well, the Twins trying to make Hahn work. This will be at least an 8-pitch at bat to get things started.
And that's another thing. In his first 4 starts, Hahn, a lot of pitches in a short amount of time. His longest outing, 6 innings, he threw 91 pitches, so not much of a strikeout pitcher.
Full count to Dozier. And just wide of the line. Missed a start a couple starts ago with a blister issue. Right-handers have had a tough time against him, hitting just 139. Left-handers 279. Pitch number 9 of the opening at bat. Down the line, what a great at bat for Dozier, and he, like Burns, will get a leadoff extra base hit.
Well, let's hope the results are the same as the inning goes on, but Dozier got that fastball, and take a look at the location right here. Up in the zone where Brian likes that ball. Does he like to turn on that high fastball? His 7th double of the year.
Dozier on the 9th pitch of his at bat does what Burns did on the game's first pitch. Whistles a double into the left field corner. Here's Hunter. And a fastball cut the plate in half. Twins with a 256 team batting average. Oakland coming into the game with a 266. Above them Baltimore, then Detroit, then Kansas City. Twins 9th in runs scored after a dreadful start. On the inside corner, 0-2.
One thing about Hahn in his young career, he's has not given up a lot of home runs. Last year for the Padres, he gave up only 4 home runs in 14 starts. He's given up only 1 this year, and that was to Mike Trout.
2 strikes to Hunter. Up and away. Mauer on deck. And now 2-2.
You'd like to have the same type of inning that the A's had in the top of the inning, but it's important here if Torrey can get Dozier over to third, give Joe Mauer a chance maybe to drive him in. Seen a lot. Torrey, as he gets older, a lot of his hits go to right field.
And an off-speed pitch, tap foul between Gene Glenn and the line. The Twins trying to dig out of an early hole here, 4-0. Both Dozier and Hunter now have had long at bats. Inside move, but Dozier's not going anyplace. Another 2-2 pitch. Wrapped to short. Dozier has to stay put. Semien fires. Hunter retired. One away. That'll bring up Mauer. Northland Ford defense for the A's. Might not recognize a lot of these names. Anna, Burns, Reddick across the outfield. Laurie, the former Blue Jay, at third. Semien, the former Chicago White Sox utility player, at short. Sogard at second. Ike Davis and Stephen Vogt, who was limited to outfield and first base duty last year, now has become their regular catcher. Here is Mauer. Outside, ball one.
Yeah, you mentioned all those names, Dick. You know, on the 25-man roster, the Oakland A's have only 2 players that have actually been signed by the Oakland A's. Everybody else has come from other organizations. Billy Beane has been busy.
Yes. Yes, he has.
Billy Beane, the general manager.
Part owner of the A's.
Part owner of the A's, yeah.
That's on the outside corner, an off-speed pitch. 1-1. Mauer second on the team in runs batted in. The first 5 batters for the Twins all are in double digits in runs batted in, which, you know, we're roughly a 6, not quite a 6 of the way through the schedule, but after a slow start, Twins are balancing the lineup a little bit. Nice block by Vogt. Dozier thought about it, decided to stay put at second base.
And that's what manager Paul Molitor was talking about. It's just not 1 or 2 guys, it's everybody contributing. That sinker right there, Vogt, the ball gets behind him, but Dozier stays at second.
Go.
2-1 to Mauer. Foul away, 2-2. About to throw his 20th pitch.
Yeah, Phil Hughes needed 35 pitches in the top of the inning.
Full count now to Mauer with a base open. 2 of them actually, but first base is open and Plouffe on deck. Full count to Mauer. Still a left field corner and foul. Not very often Joe cracks a bat, and he just cracked his bat on that swing. Get a new one. I'm guessing he probably goes through the fewest number of bats on the team. Another 3-2 to Mauer. Struck him out. Threw a fastball right down the middle of the plate. 2 down. That'll bring up Plouffe. A clutch hit from Trevor here in the first inning. He started the scoring in yesterday's game.
Oh, he sure did. His first career grand slam, that coming off John Danks. And another single, RBI single later, a career high 5 runs batted in for Trevor in yesterday's ball game.
The Twins got the leadoff double. Now haven't done anything with it. 2 at bats later. Here's Plouffe. On the outside corner, a strike. Tonight's Cold Hard Facts brought to you by Clean, Crisp Coors Light. Highest percentage of runs batted in from home runs. Trevor Plouffe 2/3 of his 15. That would be 10 of his RBIs have come on his home runs. 1-1. One to the Twins' third baseman. Foul back 1-2. So tried a handful of different players in the cleanup spot. Things may change down the road. Danny Santana eventually. The Twins would like to hit him more at the top of the order, maybe as a leadoff batter. But I'm not so sure that anybody's ready to take the cleanup spot away from Trevor Plouffe yet.
Well, again, last year he led the Twins with 80 runs batted in. Molly tried, Kenny Vargas. He tried Brian Dozier.
Hunter. 1-2 to Plouffe. Tapper to third. Laurie has it. And the Twins get a leadoff double, but leave Dozier at second. It's 4-0.
Bobblehead.
What's your reaction to it?
This is the first time I've seen it, so I think it's pretty awesome being a Star Wars fan. So, yeah, I think they did a good job with it.
The head ratio to the body is about right too. He's got a pretty big head.
Yeah, his legs. It's a good beard. This beard's better than Phil's beard. But actually, bobbleheads nowadays are actually, they look a lot more like them. I've seen bobbleheads from 10 years ago, and it's like all uniform, like one face.
Well, hopefully Phil Hughes can put that first inning behind him and keep the club in the game. So already 2 pitches thrown to Burns, who jumped on that first pitch and hit the double.
Burns cracked a double into the left field corner on the very first pitch. Came in with 3 teammates on the Bolt grand slam. Popped up short center. And Dozier puts it away, 1 down.
Already a better pitch right there than we really saw in the first inning. Fastball in on Burns, and that's where Suzuki was sitting.
Fox Sports Supports is proud to team up with AYSO, AYSO, the world's largest soccer club. Go to ayso.org/play to find your region and sign up for your fall team today. Marcus Semien takes strike 1 on an off-speed pitch.
Good curveball there for strike 1.
Popped up near the mound. Mauer coming in, 2 away. Now you always talk about how important it is for a pitcher to establish his fastball. That does not mean to suggest that that's all he should throw, right?
Oh, no, but you saw the last 2 pitches were better location of the fastball. Okay, Burns, fastball in. He started Semien off with a curveball and then went fastball up and in and created the pop-up. You key off the fastball, but it's also location of that fastball.
But you've got to do something to change. I mean, you can't just throw fastballs, right?
Right. Right now, you can see, 85% fastballs, 15% off-speed pitches.
Missing inside 2-0. Was it the first 20 pitches were fastballs or something?
Sure seemed like it, yeah.
2-0 to the third place hitter. Drew a walk in the first inning, and now strike 1, 2-1.
Well, you know what? Phil Hughes doesn't have 2 types of fastballs. You have a 4-seamer, and then you have that sinker, like a Gibson sinker. But Phil's fastball is pretty straight, so he's got to pitch up in the zone like he does, or not quite that high, or mix in that breaking ball because it starts at that same plane and works its way down. Or all of a sudden start working down in the zone with a fastball, which he really doesn't do a lot of.
3-1. And Phil Hughes has walked Josh Reddick twice. In addition to the first inning walk, there were a couple of other 3-ball counts. And Hughes' strike percentage is 58%. Only Butler singled under the glove of Danny Santana at short.
This is the first time since June 1st of last year that Phil Hughes has walked at least 2 batters.
Grounder to short. And Santana to Dozier ends the inning. No hits, 4 batters, a much better second inning for Phil Hughes.
score runs in bunches. Yes, they enjoyed a 4-game sweep over the White Sox, but their success at the plate goes back even further, batting .309 as a team in their last 9 games. And hitting coach Tom Brunansky says nothing has changed per se, but he's really been trying to get guys out of their heads and focusing so much on the mechanics of hitting, and instead just getting back to the basics. He even had Trevor Plouffe using a fungo bat just to try to have some fun again. That approach has clearly worked well. The Twins are enjoying their best stretch at the plate in a long time, Dick and Bert.
Thank you, Jamie. And that stretch of 9 games began the day after they faced King Felix Hernandez in Seattle. Kurt Suzuki will lead off the second, and Kenny Vargas and Eduardo Escobar. 1 strike to Suzuki. Did a nice job pitching around the leadoff double. Or, if you prefer, the Twins didn't do a real good job turning that leadoff double into a run. 1-1. Roller. Semien has it and delivers to Davis. 1 down. Kenny Vargas. Big home run against Tom last year when we were playing the Padres. He hit a big one yesterday from the left side of the plate.
Boy, he just dropped the barrel of the bat, and you see where that ball ended up. He is strong. His 2nd home run of the year. Coming straight away center, almost hit the batter's eye.
Vargas struggling some from the left side of the plate. Now just 5 hits in 40 at bats. Doing just fine from the other side, hitting over 300 with a home run, 3 runs batted in. So it's always nice to hit the ball over the fence if you're Kenny Vargas, but it's particularly nice when you do it from the other side. Got a couple of hits as a left-handed hitter yesterday. 1-1. Under the glove of Sogard, and Vargas will get a base hit. Ball should have been at least knocked down by Sogard, and if he knocked it down, he would have had a play on Vargas.
Yeah, getting the ball hit sharply right here. Good sinker down and away. Sogard playing short right field. Ball had some sink on it. He tried to play it off to the side, and it's scooted underneath his glove. Twins get their 2nd hit.
Vargas aboard, and now Escobar. For a good stretch of the year last year, Escobar was the most reliable hitter the Twins had. And he's just been off to a very slow start in the first 25 games.
Yeah, only 10 hits in 60 at-bats. Couple doubles, a home run.
Fouled back. Twins made a roster move today that will impact Escobar, opening up more time in left field for him. Oswaldo Arcia put on the 15-day disabled list. You may remember yesterday he left after a base hit, complaining of a right hip flexor strain. I saw Oswaldo when I got to the ballpark here this afternoon, and he was limping around in the concourse area. Inside. And the Twins called up Eddie Rosario, who was playing in the outfield alongside Aaron Hicks. And some people thought, well, Hicks would be the natural call-up. But it is instead Rosario being called up, and he is on his way to the ballpark as we speak. Hope to have him here for the later innings. 2-2. Meanwhile, the Twins will play the A's here for 4 games and then leave for Cleveland. General Manager Terry Ryan will leave for Chattanooga on Thursday to spend a week with the Double-A team and get a look at Byron Buxton and Miguel Sano and Jose Barrios. 2-2. That's to right field and down for a hit. Vargas to second. So with 1 out, the Twins have 2 men aboard and Jordan Schaefer to the plate.
Yeah, hung through that curveball right there. That just kind of hung. Watch this curveball. stayed up nicely for Escobar, and then he could hit it sharply into right field.
Sometimes you're tempted to say, you know, it really doesn't make any difference who the pitcher is. If they put pitches in the middle of the plate, they're going to get hit hard. Whether your name is Phil Hughes, Jesse Hahn, Chris Sale, you know, you just can't afford to get too much of the plate. Here is Schaefer. Down and away, ball one. With the roster change and now Arcia on the disabled list, Rosario is up here. Chances are he'll play some, and Paul Molitor said he'd feel comfortable putting him in all three outfield spots. So we may see Rosario in left, center, and right while Arcia is out. 1-1. And ostensibly, the Rosario call-up will be for just the 15 days, a short period of time. And I think the organization wants to wait and call up Aaron Hicks one more time in the hopes that it'll be the last time they call him up, that he'll be here to stay. And under the circumstances, that's not the way it looks right now. Schaefer squares to bunt and takes ball two.
Well, Rosario, very highly regarded in the Twins minor league system and the system in general of being an outfielder of the future. So, yeah, you come up for a couple days, you get your feet wet, but you never know. You'd never know. I mean, he could come up here and just tear it up and stay.
Danny Santana last year was supposed to just be up for a couple weeks, and he never went back. 2-1. It's fouled away, 2-2.
That's slipping out of the hands of Schaefer.
Hey, Battle, here, come on.
Twins with a scoring chance again here in the second. They didn't complete the scoring opportunity in the first after the leadoff double. Two and two. Escobar runs okay. Vargas less than average speed at second. That's poked to left. Down for a hit. Vargas being waved around. He'll score. Schaefer to second base with an RBI double. 3 straight hits, and the Twins are on the board.
A good piece of hitting by Schaefer right there, just taking that pitch the other way. Sinker down and away. Schaefer hitting it the other way. For Schaefer, his third double, picking up his third RBI of the year. And his first since the middle of April.
And now Santana with an important at bat. Hit to the outfield here will get the Twins, you'd think, within one. High chopper over the mound. Backhanded. There'll be no play with Sogard holding on to it, and it's an infield hit and an RBI for Santana. 4-2.
Well, Sogard knew exactly who hit that ball. He had no chance. The only chance he had was maybe to throw it over to third base and see if Schaefer rounded the bag, because you were not going to throw out Danny Santana on that high chopper over the mound.
First time through the order, the A's had 5 hits. First time through the order, the Twins have 5 hits. And Dozier with the tying run at first and one away. Dozier had a lengthy at bat, and on the 9th pitch of the at bat, drove a double into the left field corner. There goes Santana. The pitch taken for strike one, and the tying run now is in scoring position. Santana will get a stolen base.
His second of the year in 4 attempts. Had a great pitch to run on. It was a curveball. And Vogt looked at third, had no chance to get Santana.
A hit to the outfield should tie the game. Breaking ball, wallop to left. Off the wall, it's in play. It'll tie the game. Dozier with his second double, and the Twins have tied it at 4.
Well, it looked like another hanging breaking ball, and Dozier, like his first at bat, that pitch up, hits it sharply over the head. Canna right there, he has it. Oh, right off the heel of his glove, hits off the wall. And even though it doesn't, touch the ground, it's still a double. And just like that, the Twins come back and tie the game.
Go ahead runner at second with 1 out. 5 straight hits here in the second. And Hunter gets a breaking ball and waves at it. Vogt to the mound to talk to Hahn. 6 hits in 10 at bats against Jesse Hahn.
And Phil saying thank you. It's a 0-0 ball game.
One strike to Hunter. Fastball on the outside corner.
All right, no, you battle. All right, come on, here we go. Fighter, come on.
Hunter had a fairly long at bat, ended up bouncing to short, failed to advance Dozier after his first inning double. And he got one of those hangers that Dozier's cracked a couple of times, and he fouled it away.
He's thrown about 3 or 4 hangers this inning that he's been hurt on.
Torrey got one of those hangers, a hanging slider. He hit a big home run in the White Sox series. 2 strikes. Dozier not going anyplace. Second time they've tried that inside move with Dozier at second. They did it last inning as well. Inside, right under his knuckles.
You can almost hear Torrey from here.
More on deck. Nice comeback by the Twins here in the second inning. In position to take the lead in the second. Melvin's had really good starting pitching. His issue has been the bullpen. Hunter strikes out for out number 2.
On picking up his second strikeout.
Join us May 7th for Lee County Day as the Twins take on the A's. First 10,000 fans receive Twins flip-flops courtesy of the beaches of Fort Myers and Sanibel. There are 4 different sizes: small, medium, large, and extra large.
XL.
Yeah. Go to twinsbaseball.com/tickets. Get your tickets today. You and I would each take an XL, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Here is Mauer. Struck out in the first. Ball 1.
Well, both starters using a lot of pitches. Phil Hughes 46 pitches in 2 innings, and Hahn right now, this will be pitch number 52.
Fly ball left field. Canna is there. The Twins string 5 hits together. to tie the game up with a 4-run second inning. Is presented by CenturyLink, your link to what's next. By NorthlandFord.com and your local Northland Ford dealer. And by Grand Casino. The best stories start here. Schaefer, Danny Santana all contributing to a nice comeback. The Twins have tied it up, and now Phil Hughes pitching to Stephen Vogt with the bases empty and delivers strike one. Vogt, Davis, and Laurie here in the third inning.
Yeah, Vogt, his last 3 official at-bats, home runs. He had a couple home runs against the Rangers in his last 2 at-bats. And then here tonight, the grand slam, his first career grand slam.
1-1. 2-1. He has faced 9 batters in the first, 4 batters in the second. And that one slashed down the left field line. Vogt doesn't run particularly well, and he'll be held to a single. Second opposite field hit for the A's against Phil Hughes. The game was started with Billy Burns cracking a double into the left field corner. And now Mike Davis. Davis off to a good start with his new team.
Yeah, last year Davis started the season with the Mets, ended it with the Pirates.
Ball 1 from Hughes.
Davis purchased by the Oakland A's from the Pirates over the winter. 28 years old.
And now Hughes misses again, 2-0. There's an old saying regarding pitchers that you should never win 20 games because then people will expect it every year. In Davis's case, should probably never hit 30 home runs in New York because then they expect you to do it every year, and that was one of the issues. Davis, I think, needed to get out of New York. The ball fouled back, 2-1. Hit 32 home runs in 2012, drove in 90 runs, didn't hit for much of an average. But I think the Mets fans always remembered the 32 home runs, and he wasn't able to repeat that. And the fans came down hard on him, and change of scenery seemed to work pretty well for Ike Davis. 2-1. High fly, left center field. Escobar calls for it. One away. And that'll bring up Brett Lawrie. Lawrie essentially replacing Josh Donaldson at third base for the A's. The A's had a nucleus of all-stars. Most of them traded away in the offseason. Derek Norris, the catcher. That's wide of third, one strike.
They had Salto Lamacchia. They had John Lester for a while.
You mean Samardzija?
Samardzija.
Yes. And Cespedes was traded during the season. It kind of changed the chemistry for the A's. They had the best record in baseball when they made that trade. Billy Beane pretty much went all in with starting pitching, getting Lester and Samardzija. But the A's were never the same ball club after the trade, and were lucky to get into the wild card game. The Mariners were just one game behind them. 1-1 to Brett Lawrie. Swing and a miss. 1-2. And then, of course, they had the big lead over Kansas City in the wild card game and lost it at the end. One and two. And Hughes goes upstairs with a fastball to get a strikeout. 2 down.
First strikeout for Phil Hughes. Again, you see Suzuki wanting that ball down and away, and ball bouncing out of the glove of Kurt. He's able to hold on to it.
Mark Canha, left fielder.
Actually, he dropped it. Lawrie did not make contact.
Canha hit a hard, high chopper that Hughes was able to make the catch. We said at the time, after Canha made out number 2, that the Sogard at bat was a really big one because there were 2 men in scoring position. The score was already 4-0. Well, Hughes, as ragged as he was in the first inning, was able to get Canha and Sogard. High fly center field, hit fairly well, but Schaefer hasn't measured. And Hughes hasn't given up a run since, and his teammates have tied it up at 4. And in the bottom of the third, Luke Skywalker will lead things off. 5 hits, 4 runs in the second.
Yeah, Stephen Vogt with his first career grand slam made it a 4-0 early lead, but the Twins came back with 5 straight hits to tie the game at 4 apiece. Brian Dozier's big 2-run double.
Just some parallels here. The Twins had in the field, had a ball go right under Danny Santana's glove. He deflected it. That went for a base hit. And then a ball hit off of Schaefer's glove in center. And that helped the A's have a big inning in the first. Then in the second inning, Vargas's smash slowed down but not stopped by Sogard in short right field. And then a ball hit off the left fielder's glove. 1-1 to Plouffe. Suzuki and Vargas will follow. And now 2-1. Six hits aside. And the outside corner, 2-2.
Not the one you want. Stop. Now you got foul.
Breaking ball, missing, and it's a full count. You saw Suzuki on deck. He'll bat next, and then Vargas.
On a couple strikeouts, no walks yet.
To the right side, Sogard has it go off his glove again. And Plouffe has a base hit to start the third inning.
He was playing Trevor Plouffe up the middle. He had to go far to his left, trying to get that little hop, and the ball deflected into right field. So Plouffe gets a base hit, fastball away, went that way. Sogard reaches out right off the tip of his glove.
Now Suzuki, former Oakland catcher. 2 stints with the Oakland A's.
Yeah, originally signed by the A's out of Cal State Fullerton in Southern California back in 2004. Came up with the A's in 2007 to 12, then traded over to the Nationals, and then came back in 2013 in the second season with the Twins.
Twins have already stolen 1 base on Hahn. Middle of strike. Mentioned that Hahn was skipped a couple starts ago because of a blister problem, and then Hughes with the fingernail issue. You admitted that you used to chew your fingernails to keep them down, so they'd not be much of a factor. What about blisters? You have any blister issues?
I had blisters, yeah. I actually, between innings, believe it or not, I would pop that blister so I could continue because it would swell up.
And now inside, 1-1 to Suzuki.
I had one year, Dick. Actually, I went to spring training. I let my nails grow, and I couldn't get anybody out of spring training. Finally bit my fingernail off, like I always do, and created a blood blister. And by the end of the season, half of my nail was gone, but I kept popping that blood blister that would form underneath it.
We apologize for those of you who were having a late dinner while we were watching the Twins.
Sometimes you have to do what you have to do.
But you can go to Walgreens or any department store, and for 39 cents, 79 cents, you can get a nail clipper.
No, why would I have teeth to take care of my nails. I'm talking about the blood blisters that formed underneath the nail.
1-1.
Well, you asked me.
And I'm beginning to wonder why I did, but
sometimes the truth hurts. I found that out.
One and one to Suzuki. Popped up near first. Davis staggering a bit on the warning track, makes the catch, one away. That'll bring up Vargas. Car Soup trivia. It was the last Oakland pitcher to win 20 games in a season.
Boy, they've run some very, very good pitchers through that Oakland A's system.
Reminiscing today, there you see Scott Kazmir reminiscing today about poor starts for the Twins, and very well remember the 2003 season. There is strike one. The Twins limped into the All-Star break and they looked absolutely dead in the water. They couldn't score runs. And then during the break, the Twins acquired Shannon Stewart, and they opened up the second half against the Oakland A's in a 4-game series. And Oakland at the time had the vaunted starting rotation that included Tim Hudson, Barry Zito, half swing and strike 2, Mark Mulder, and the Twins swept the 4-game series, and that really propelled them to a great second half and another division championship. 2 strikes to Vargas. He started the 5-hit string that tied the game in the second.
Yeah, both sitting outside.
And lifted foul. Twins benched Vargas for a few days last week, wanting him to focus, take better batting practice, recognize pitches, and not pretend as if it's home run derby all the time in batting practice. One and two. We talked about in the Chicago series, his extra batting practice didn't involve so much taking swings. They felt the swing was fine as long as he was swinging at strikes. But Tom Bernansky, the hitting coach, and I'm sure others, were in the cage throwing pitches in the dirt, breaking pitches, trying to improve his pitch recognition. Recognized that 90-mile-per-hour fastball and fouled it straight back.
Well, I remember a couple weeks ago too, Bruno saying that maybe he's, taking too much batting practice. He's working on it too much. Just sometimes just step back and relax a little bit. On the road, especially, a lot of these kids come out and take early BP. Find that right swing.
Took it inside, a close pitch to even the count, 2-2. 67 pitches for Jesse Hahn. He had a 4-0 lead before he threw his first pitch. Foul tip, and Vogt hangs on, 2 down.
Yeah, that sinker that just had some good tail on it right there, and Hahn picks up his 3rd strikeout. Watch the movement of this fastball right here. Right into the glove is a foul tip. Into Vogt's glove.
Escobar singled, second of 5 straight hits for the Twins in the second inning. Slice foul. And Escobar back to put some pine tar on his bat. Some rosin.
That's one thing you don't see too often. A lot of umpires will not actually do that.
I wonder, given the emphasis on speeding up games, whether Escobar might not be written up about that. That's hit to left. Hanna retreating, and on the edge of the track makes the catch. A leadoff single with no damage done. You're watching the A's and Twins. Brought to you by the all-new Chrysler 200, America's import. A wide variety of fishing opportunities in ponds, streams, rivers, and over 10,000 lakes. Visit ExploreMinnesota.com. Discover a world that's only in Minnesota. Share and tag your Minnesota experiences with #OnlyInMN. The deep, cold waters of Lake Superior, the world's largest freshwater lake, offer charter fishing for native lake trout as well as steelhead, chinook, coho salmon, and walleye. Fishing opener coming up on Saturday here in Minnesota for walleyes and northern. And I'll be in Cleveland. Eric Sogard leading off the fourth. Fly to center. Schaefer over, still running and tracking it down. One away. And that'll bring up Burns. May 26th is Healthcare Professionals Night at Target Field. Special ticket packages available that includes exclusive Twins branded scrubs. Limited number of ticket packages available, and your only way to get your Twins scrubs. Visit twinsbaseball.com/healthcare for tickets and more information. It's like the Hughes the Force bobbleheads. You had to buy a special ticket package to get into the ballpark, and only those ticket holders were able to get those bobbleheads. It's not, the first 10,000 people or anything like that. Same deal with the scrubs. One strike to Billy Burns. Burns set the tone for an awful first inning for Phil Hughes. He hit the first pitch he saw for a double. And a fastball flip foul, 2 strikes.
And you almost saw right by that swing right there. That's the type of hitter Burns is. He's kind of a slap and run type hitter. Outstanding speed.
Two strikes. And strike 3. Half swing, half-hearted swing by Billy Burns.
That's strikeout number 2 for Hughes. Retired the last 5 in a row.
That was the cutter on the outside corner that was one of Hughes' best pitches a year ago.
Well, 35 in the first, and the last couple have been outstanding.
And a breaking ball that hits the inside corner. He's mixing everything in more than he did at any point in the first 7 at bats of the first inning. Popped up, fouling out of play, getting ahead now 0-2.
And his fastballs, we've seen the pop-ups, they've been more inside that first inning. Everything was pretty much right down the heart of the plate.
5 in a row set down by Hughes. Just 1 hit allowed since Laurie's double with 1 out in the first. Didn't mean to. That's a dribbler. That it will stay foul. Check swing by Semien, and he's lucky he didn't get hit in the knuckles. Semien was used all over the infield by the White Sox, but the A's have put him at short and just left him there. Northern California native gets to go back home and play.
Yep. Born in San Francisco, went to the University of California, Berkeley.
Fastball inside. And this one popped up just beneath us. And as we've said many times, there isn't much that is beneath us.
It's not.
Breaking ball in the dirt, 2-2. He's trying to keep the momentum. I like how Paul Molitor put it. When things were going well for the Twins in the Chicago series, he says, you know, you got to be greedy. When things are going your way, be greedy. Enjoy it for as long as you can. Now, Phil Hughes thought he had the inside corner, and instead it's ball 3.
They tried that little cutter, and Suzuki held it just for a second to see if Tim Timmons, the home plate umpire, would call it.
Well, inside according to Fox Tracks. 3-2. And base hit center field. So a prolonged at bat for Semien, and he has his first hit. Comes with 2 outs in the 4th. Before Reddick comes to the plate since April 22nd, he has been a T-Mobile game changer. He ranks in the top 3 in the following major offensive categories: first in slugging, second in batting average, third in RBI with 15. And today, along with Jose Altuve, he was named the Co-American League Player of the Week.
And his season really didn't start until April 12th. He started the season on a disabled list, a right oblique strain.
Foul back, strike 1. Reddick has walked twice. Walks, of course, a rarity for Hughes. So walking the same guy twice hasn't happened since it happened last year in New York when Hughes walked Brian McCann twice in a ball game.
Yeah, Hughes ended up winning that ball game 7-2.
1 strike to Reddick. And now another foul ball.
Reddick a little upset that he missed that. Reddick in his 4th season with the A's, originally with the Boston Red Sox. Won a Gold Glove for the A's in 2012 out at right field. Here's ahead in the count, 0-2. Suzuki sitting
a foot outside
in the right-handed hitter's batter's box. What do you think back there, Derwood Merrill?
Eric Gregg?
What's that little cutter?
Yeah, had it, baby.
And just missing again.
One and 2. Pitch number 78 for Hughes, trying to wrap up business here in the 4th inning. On the ground, sharply hit to Dozier. And that takes care of the 4th. Another scoreless inning for Hughes. We're still tied at 4. Chrysler 200, America's import. You haven't guessed, this is Star Wars night here at Target Field. And the Twins fell behind early, 4-0. They tied it up quickly in the second. And now to the bottom of the fourth inning, and Jordan Schaefer will lead things off against Jesse Hahn. It's to left center field, and that will die in front of Canha. Schaefer got an RBI double and a run scored in the second. The Twins have the leadoff man on for the third time tonight.
Yeah, maybe cracked his bat right there, but Schaefer gets a base hit.
10 now for Lowe's. Never stop improving, and tonight it's Danny Santana. This year hitting ninth. Danny Santana is hitting .391 and an on-base percentage of .417.
And you see, that's one reason Paul Molitor set him down there. He was leading off for a while, and he just wanted to let him relax a little bit, and he has.
Santana squares. Was a pitch out, ball one. Twins ran Santana right after his single in the second inning. He stole second on the very first pitch. And the A's thought maybe the Twins would try the same thing with Schaefer here in the fourth. Nice to see Schaefer pick up a couple of hits. He got a batting average over 200.
Now Schaefer, tremendous speed, but as far as stealing bases, he's 0 for 2.
And a flip of the coin for the Twins coming into play tonight. 7 steals and 7 throwouts. Santana jabbed at it. It's a strike 1-1. Signs from the manager to the third base coach. And then to the hitter and the runner. Time was called at home plate. Tim Timmons ballered it out before Hahn threw to first base.
Yeah, Hahn held it for a long time. Finally, Santana asked for time and got it.
Third baseman Laurie creeping in on the grass, still expecting Santana to bunt. And now outside, 2-1. Laurie with a quick glance into the Oakland dugout. They want him to continue to play in. Santana hasn't been up there too many times with a 2-1 count. Usually the at-bat's over with 3 pitches into the at-bat.
Very close.
Davis, a left-handed first baseman, and they have the advantage on pickoff plays. Bob Melvin may challenge this, but they have the advantage because he can catch the ball and swipe the tag.
Watch how quick the tag goes down. Schaefer.
I don't know that he ever tagged him. If he had tagged him, they may have challenged him. Schaefer goes, pitches outside. Schaefer is out at second base. Holt got a good pitch to handle off the plate outside. Paul Molitor may challenge that, although Schaefer is coming off the field.
Yeah, good throw by Vogt. As you mentioned, Dick, watch where this pitch is. It's up and away, so Vogt quickly gets it over to Simeon, the shortstop, and the quick tag on the back of Schaefer before he can get that left hand on the bag. So Schaefer thrown out for the third time in 3 attempts.
3-1 now to Santana, who perhaps is on the verge of drawing his first walk of the season. 3-2. Closest thing Santana's done to actually swinging the bat, he jabbed on a bunt attempt for strike one. Dozier on deck. Full count. Pulled foul. Hunt hasn't walked anybody, but the Twins have piled up 8 hits against him.
A lot of pitches. 77 pitches trying to get the second out here in the 4th inning.
Popped up behind third. Semien. Short left field. That's out number 2. Been a good couple of days for Brian Dozier. Double doubles tonight. Yesterday, had a good day at the plate as well.
I sure did. A couple, 3 hits, a triple, 4 total. Drove in a run, scored a run. And here tonight, led off the bottom of the 1st with a double. And then the double that brought in a couple runs in the 2nd inning.
Dozier's picked up his doubles on breaking pitches. He gets a fastball off the plate, ball 1. Laurie can't handle it. Laurie, a very good fielding third baseman, but Dozier will reach on an error.
Yeah, sometimes those little short hops, you try to soften your hands up, and you see good third basemen came up on him a little bit.
So a chance for Hunter with a man aboard, and another chance for the Twins to steal a base if they'd like.
So he tried to play that off to the side, and the ball came.
Now Dozier at first. On the error. Twins getting an extra out. They took advantage of the White Sox mistakes in the field throughout the 4-game series. Now an opportunity here in the 4th inning. Time called by vote, I believe. Chopper to short. Easy play for Semien. That takes care of it. Twins can't take advantage of the extra out. Phil Hughes, after a very rough start, has pitched well since the 4-run first, and he'll have the 5th when we come back. On Star Wars night here for 4 on May 4th, and we have completed 4 innings.
Very good.
Billy Butler, Stephen Vogt, Ike Davis facing Phil Hughes, is looking for his first win. High fly left center field. Escobar over in the gap with the one-handed catch. One down. One quick out in the 5th. And our Pepsi fan of the game with a Darth Vader shirt.
I don't know if it's supposed to be a full moon or not. Maybe they're looking up.
One down and vote the batter. Grand slam in the 1st and then a single in the 3rd. Strike one. On the ground, Santana backhands, has time to set and fire. Good play by Santana on his backhand side. 2 down. And that'll bring up Ike Davis.
And those are the plays the Twins just want Santana to make, the normal plays. Of course, yesterday he turned a great double play by diving up the middle. He's got a great arm.
2 quick outs here in the 5th, and now Ike Davis. Foul back, strike one. Hughes, a strike thrower, must be throwing better strikes because he's getting a lot more foul balls instead of giving up line drives like in the 1st inning. I mean, it was pretty loud during the first 6, 7 at bats.
Well, he's working the corners a lot better from the 2nd inning to now.
On the ground, Dozier, diving stop to his right, throws him out. Wow. A sterling defensive play by Brian Dozier.
Celebrating Star Wars night. May the 4th be with you. Leslie is here celebrating with her family of 5, and it is Star Wars night. Your girl's hoping to use the Force to get circled by Bert. How are you enjoying your time?
We are having a blast. We've tried the mini donuts, the hot dogs, the pizza, the cotton candy. What was your favorite, Cal?
I understand Cal is quite the Star Wars fan. What did you think of all the characters and the sightings, everything like that?
We had a photo op with the Storm Rangers. Yeah, it was good times.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here tonight. We're going to give you $100 worth of scratch-offs to the Minnesota Lottery.
Fantastic.
And so far, Phil Hughes using the force to stay in this game, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. And they are hereby circled.
Well, we're trying to butt his way aboard on the first pitch. 1 strike. Joe's tried that a couple of times. He has not tried it successfully yet.
But why not? You know, I mean, you see.
Leading off an inning,
right.
It makes all the sense in the world.
Yes, it does.
1-1. Oh, speed pitch wrapped around the plate. 2-1. Joe hitless. Hunter is 0 for 3. Twins have racked up 8 hits. Fouled away. 1-2. Excuse me, 2-2. Joe struck out in the first and hit a fly ball to left in the second. Inside and got a swing and a miss. 4 strikes out, 1 down.
Joe striking out for the second time. Hahn picking up his 4th strikeout.
The Twins Wives Organization fundraiser to benefit children and families in need will take place on Wednesday. Returning for another year is the ever popular ball in a bag, guaranteeing you an autographed baseball in every bag along with other great items. New this year is an aluminum water bottle in your choice of red or blue. Stop by their new location Wednesday, May 6th, behind the Great Clips Great Seats. And from the gates will open, the opportunity to make those purchases from when the gates open to the end of the second inning. There's the newest Twin, Eddie Rosario, grinning from ear to ear. He woke up in Rochester, New York today, and he will spend his first night as a big leaguer in Minneapolis. And Paul Molitor didn't rule out the possibility that he'd get in the game yet tonight. Bloof on a half swing. Strike, and he's gone. And 2 quick strikeouts for Jesse Hahn here in the 5th.
I guess that was kind of good that the first base umpire said it was strike 3 because Vogt jumped up. Trevor Plouffe walked away, but Tim Timmons had to ask the first base umpire if it was strike or not. So Hahn striking out 2 in a row, now with 5 in a ball game.
And here is Suzuki, who's 0 for 2. Strike 1. Liner to Sogard. 2 strikeouts, a well hit ball, bottom line, a 1-2-3 fifth for Jesse Hahn. It's Star Wars night here at the ballpark. The A's got 4 runs in the first. The Twins got 4 runs in the second. Neither team scored since, and we're on to the 6th. Brett Laurie will lead things off. Now, just taking another look at Dozier's double, in case fans are wondering, if the ball, the second double, if the ball had bounced out of Canna's glove and over the fence, as it was, it hit about, what, 2/3 of the way. And foul just beneath us. It hit about 2/3 of the way up on the wall. If it bounced out of his glove and went over the fence, it's a home run. Every once in a while you see that. And sometimes every once in a while it'll hit a player in the head and bounce over for a home run, as it did to
Jose Canseco.
2 strikes to Laurie. This is the second double that ended up tying the game. Rattles around in the glove, and then it's about 2/3 of the way up on the wall. On the ground, Dozier gets in front of it. The key to that play, that ball hit the mound and had some extra spin on it. And if Dozier had tried to backhand that, he might not have been able to make the play.
I tell you what, he's made a lot of great plays this year. He's yet to make an error right there, making sure that ball stays in front of him. Even if the way that ball came up, you see him come up and play it in the heel of his glove and then flip it over to Mauer. Another nice defensive play.
One down, and here's Canna. Really haven't seen had some issues defensively on this team, particularly in the infield at short, and some misplays in left field. But there have been a couple of games, frankly, where the Twins have won the game because of defense. Doesn't mean there aren't some warts. There are some rough spots that need to get worked on to make this a better ball club. And second base is the least of the Twins' concerns when it comes to defense. Up high, 2-1. And of course, conversely, we saw in the Chicago series what happens when you don't play well in the field. Doesn't make any difference whether you're Chris Sale or John Danks, whatever. A high drive to left, and Canna has hit one way back into the second deck. His 4th home run of the year. And the A's have another home run against Phil Hughes in their second inning.
I think Phil wanted this fastball away, and it was left middle in, and Canna got underneath it. Young man has some power.
See Suzuki's target away, and the pitch was over the inside corner. And never got there. Eric Sogard, the batter. All of Oakland's runs now have come on home runs. The grand slam, now the solo home run. 1-0. Sogard with a couple of outfield flies, one to right, one to center. The Brewers have the lead on the Dodgers now, 4-3. After changing managers this morning, Ron Renicky dismissed Craig Counsell, their new manager. They were down to Clayton Kershaw. There's the ball flared to left, and Escobar with the catch, 2 away.
Counsell, who played as a Brewer, is there a couple times. Named a new manager earlier today.
And yet another manager in baseball who did not go what used to be the typical route to manage in the minor leagues for a few years and learn the ropes and all that. In the American League Central alone, 3 of the managers never managed a game professionally anywhere until they became a major league manager, including the Twins manager Paul Molitor, Robin Ventura, Brad Ausmus of the Tigers, Walt Weiss, Mike Matheny. One and 1 the count to Burns with 2 gone. bunted, and a beautiful bunt. That ball deadened in the grass 30 feet from home plate.
Well, again, that's the type of player that Burns is. Now look for him to maybe try to steal second. With 2 outs, a perfectly placed bunt. And that bunt, the ball staying on the grass and dying there.
Paul Molitor coming to the mound. Aaron Thompson is warmed up. No signal given yet. And he just wanted to check with Phil Hughes, wanted to make sure he'd be able to get through the 6th inning. You're looking for your ace to get a win. And the object is for your team to win the game, but I know that Paul Molitor would like to have Hughes get through this inning, and then maybe the Twins score a couple, give them a lead, and then get them out.
Yeah, his pitch count at 97. Keep an eye on Burns at first base.
Semien 1 for 3. Strike on the outside corner.
Burns 184 stolen bases in the minor leagues.
Side 1-1. In the dirt, a breaking ball. 2-1.
First time this season Phil Hughes has thrown 100 pitches, and who would have thought he even got into the 6th inning after the 1st inning with 35. Trying to get the final out here in the 6th. Down a run.
Trying to get his 18th out. And a liner to Santana. That ends 6 innings complete for Phil Hughes. Twins down a run. You're watching the A's and Twins, brought to you by the all-new Chrysler 200, America's import. By Toyota. See where Toyota takes you. Test drive one at your Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. By Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, for the everyday competitor in all of us. And by McDonald's. Have bold for breakfast with the new chorizo burrito from McDonald's. First pitch outside to Kenny Vargas. Fox Tracks presented by Chrysler. Twins down a run again to Jesse Hahn and the A's. Vargas, Escobar, and Schaefer. Hahn's done a good job against the middle of the Twins lineup. It's been these guys that have given him the most trouble. Vargas with a single. Escobar, Jordan, Santana, or Schaefer, Santana all got hits in the second inning. Vargas did strike out on a foul tip his second time up.
Yeah, and Hahn had trouble in that second inning when he gave up 5 straight hits, but has settled down nicely.
1-2 to Vargas. And 2-2. Side 3-2. Vargas has taken 5 walks. Again, the Twins have some players that have not drawn any walks. Escobar hasn't walked. Arcia on the disabled list has 4 walks, but they've all been intentional.
Trying to go away again.
Fouled back.
And that's the pitch, that fastball away that struck out Vargas in the 3rd inning. Hahn has 5 strikeouts in a ball game, yet to walk a Twin batter.
Came close to Santana. Would have been his first walk of the year.
Another fastball away.
And Vargas protects the plate well. See where the pitches were or have been to Vargas, all off the plate. Came inside to strike out Mauer after feeding him stuff outside. Stroked solidly into right center field. And Vargas is going to dig for, no, he's not. He tried that in the Chicago series, and that didn't work out too well.
Well, if that ball gets past Reddick right there, then he goes to second, but Reddick did a good job of cutting that ball off.
Time now to take a look at the road ahead presented by Chrysler. We will televise tomorrow's game, Wednesday's game, no TV on Thursday, and then most of us hit the road for a road trip to Cleveland and Detroit. Some of us will not be going to Cleveland and Detroit.
Some of us will have some vacation time coming.
Be working with Roy Smalley on that road trip. Here's Escobar, a single, a run scored, and a fly to left. Really good to see Vargas picking up some hits now from the left side of the plate, picking up hits generally, but there really wasn't any issue from the right side, but he was held out of the lineup against some right-handers because he was just not feeling comfortable from the left side of the plate.
And last year he hit really good from the left side.
4 hits the last 2 games for Vargas as a left-handed batter, including a home run. Oh, that's a hefty bat toss. In his last at bat, Escobar went back to the on-deck circle to get some pine tar and rosin. And this time he's got to go back to get a whole new bat. That ball was helicoptered a long way into the seats.
I think Escobar would like to exchange and get that bat back. So I'm talking to the ball boys, see if they can do that. Tony Oliva used to do this, ball slipping out of his hands, bat going over the Twins dugout.
2 strikes to Escobar. And fouled back. Have the only 2 home runs in the game. Twins have scored 4 runs on a succession of hits. Now have a leadoff single to work with here in the 6th. And the dirt. 1-2. Hahn over 100 pitches on the day. Schaefer's had a good day at the plate with 2 hits. He's on deck. Line drive to right center field. Hit to the gap. Reddick chasing it. That ball's off the wall. Good retrieve by Reddick. Escobar to second, Vargas to third, and for the second hit in a row, Reddick played it perfectly.
Well, Escobar able to hold on to his bat on that swing. He hit that ball a long way. Escobar with his third double of the year. And tailing fastball left out over the plate. And Reddick realizes he can't get it, plays the carom with perfection. But it's a double for Escobar.
And now Bob Melvin to the mound. He may make a pitching change here. The Oakland bullpen has the worst ERA in the American League, 4.78. And they have 8 losses. R.J. Alvarez warming up. That'll be the end of the night for Jesse Hahn. He's got a chance to win a game. He's got a chance to lose one as well. It'll depend on a leaky bullpen getting the job done starting here in the 6th. Import. The A's have had some bullpen issues this year, and now the Twins hope to capitalize on those issues. They've got the tying run at third, the go-ahead run at second, and Jesse Hahn will turn the ball game over to Alvarez.
Alvarez making his 9th relief appearance, 7 innings, 9 runs allowed, 8 earned on a couple home runs, 13 strikeouts, good fastball, very good slider and a changeup. He's in his first year with the Oakland A's, coming over from the Padres.
Jordan Schaefer with 2 hits, an RBI, a run scored, a caught stealing. Middle infield is back. If it's a sharp ground ball, they may come home and try to get Vargas, but corner infielders are even with their bases. Outside. Too many hits, too many home runs, and too many walks for Alvarez so far in his season.
Alvarez coming over in the Derek Norris trade for the Padres over the winter. Started the season with the A's, optioned out on April 22nd, and then just recalled a couple days ago.
Inside. Come close to throwing a strike, 2-0.
Alvarez, 23 years old, originally signed by the Angels in 2012.
Didn't mean to. Rolls under the glove, and Vargas will score. Sogard can't field it. A check swing roller, and everybody fanned on it.
Well, Vargas has to hold up because it looked like the pitcher Alvarez was going to backhand this ball. Instead, it got through underneath him. Sogard came in, and because Schaefer's speed, tried to barehand it and unable to get it. So kind of a check swing under the glove of the pitcher, and Sogard unable to grab that ball. It has to be a base hit. It is an infield hit. Schaefer gets his third hit, drives in a run, his second into the ball game, fourth of the year.
Game tied now. Santana at the plate. Schaefer was thrown out trying to steal in the fourth. Santana with an RBI single, chopped one over the mound. Already come back twice to tie the game, looking for their first lead. Swing and a miss. Santana trying to drive one out of here. One strike.
Well, that's what Paul Molitor was talking about. You know, when maybe your 2, 3, 4, 5 hitters in your lineup aren't producing, the lower part of the lineup doing a great job here tonight.
String of 3 hits early in the 6th inning here. To the backstop. And Schaefer will advance to second. Escobar staying put at third. Alvarez has really yanked 3 or 4 pitches in his outing already. A wild pitch. Now 2 men in scoring position.
Alvarez with his third wild pitch. And Vogt had no chance and just hit the backstop and came right back toward home plate.
Infield shortening up now. 1-1 to Santana. Foul back, 1-2.
Now you got it out. Now you got it out.
Alvarez has struck out 13 men in the 7 innings pitched. And of course, Santana very susceptible to striking out. See what he can do here by making sure he puts the ball in play someplace, even if it's an out. Two and two. Won't win the game. He's still responsible for Escobar at third base. Foul back into the seats. 95 miles per hour down and in, and Santana was able to flip it foul. Two and two to Danny Santana. Struck him out. Down and in with a cutter. One down. That'll bring up Dozier.
Alvarez picks up a big strike. That looked like that slider down and in. Look at
the ball drops straight down. Infield steal in now for Dozier. He has 2 doubles, 2 runs batted in. He reached on an error. Made one sensational defensive play.
Big stuff right here. Come on. Each other up.
ball gets a wave and a miss.
All right, now you go.
Bassett and Abad warming up. Aaron Thompson looks like he'll get the 7th inning. See if Dozier can give Phil Hughes a lead.
Hey, baby.
The breaking ball wasn't close. One and one. Breaking ball hit the corner. So he's seen 3 breaking balls in this at bat.
3 straight sliders.
Hunter on deck. The Twins have tied a great chance to take a lead. Their first of the night. 1-2 to Dozier. Nice block by Vogt. 2-2. Another breaking ball. Dozier's already punished a couple of hanging breaking balls in the game for doubles. Inside, nearly hit his shoulder. 3-2.
Trying to overthrow another breaking ball. So 5 straight sliders to Brian Dozier.
First base open, Hunter on deck. Full count to the Twins' second baseman. Time call. Poke to center. Burns coming in. Escobar tagging. And Burns throws to the cutoff man. 2 down.
Yeah, another slider. Dozier hit it into short center field. Not deep enough to allow Escobar to score. Little pitch by pitch. He started him off with a nasty slider right there. Then he missed with that slider. Another slider that started over the middle of the plate. Now it's 2-2. The slider left inside. And so he throws back another slider. Trying getting underneath it.
Torrey's had a tough night at the plate. Couple of weak ground balls to short and a strikeout after Dozier's 2-run double.
I'd look for the slider.
And he gets a fastball up and in. Ball 1. Another fastball drilled to left, way back and gone. A 3-run home run for Torrey Hunter.
Should have thrown that slider.
A big 2-out home run by Torrey Hunter.
He got a fastball and clobbered it. A line drive home run by Torrey Hunter, his 3rd home run of the year. And That smile.
Mauer swings and misses. Torrey to the not top step, but the second step to acknowledge the ovation.
Big 2-out hit right there.
In the on-deck circle, he had to have seen the 6 sliders that Dozier got, and he got 2 fastballs and just absolutely crushed the second one. One and one to Mauer, and the Twins are enjoying a 3-run lead now, thanks to another multi-run home run by Torrey Hunter. Fouled away 1 and 2.
Yeah, Torrey now with 3 home runs, 2 3-run home runs, and a 2-run home run. So he's making his home runs, bringing some runs. That home run estimated at 409 feet. And it was on a line.
Down the line, and Torrey flipped the bat away. I guess when you hit it that hard, you know when it has some hook to it and when it doesn't.
Oh, didn't have time to hook.
And Mauer takes outside 2 and 2. More bullpen woes for the Oakland A's. The go-ahead run, the 6th run charged to the starter Hahn.
That's the 3rd home run that Alvarez has allowed in 7 2/3 innings.
Mauer lifts it high, fairly deep left center, but in the ballpark. And that will end it. But with 2 outs and a great chance to take the lead, nearly slipping away from them, the captain, unnamed captain of the Twins, clobbers a 3-run homer.
A run scored tonight. Grand slam by Stephen Vogt in the 1st inning made it an early 4-0 lead, but the Twins came back with 5 straight hits in the bottom of the 2nd to tie it at 4 apiece. McKenna hitting a home run made it a 5-4 ball game, and we just witnessed Torrey Hunter's 3-run home run. The Twins now with a 8-5 lead.
Aaron Thompson in now to pitch the 7th inning. He'll face Josh Reddick, Billy Butler, Stephen Vogt.
Thompson making his 13th relief appearance.
Fastball missing low.
He pitched here on Saturday, 2 1/3 innings of shutout baseball after Ricky Nolasco went the first 5. Helped get Nolasco his first win. Did a great job.
Popped up, fouling out of play.
And he has done a great job out of that bullpen.
Well, the bullpen has really changed over the course of the first 25 games. Dunsink spent most of that time on the disabled list. Blaine Boyer warming up in the Twins pen. 1-1. Ooh, up high, I guess. 2-1. But the additions of Presley and Tonkin have given the Twins a little more smoke from the right side. Both pitchers throw in the mid-90s. Now 3-1 to Reddick, who's walked twice and bounced to second. Butler on deck. And now 3-2.
A good fastball away. Good location.
Fly ball left field. Escobar calling for it. One down.
Went back to the fastball away. Gets that fly ball to left field.
And now Billy Butler.
Butler became a free agent, signed with the Oakland A's.
Strike that covers the inside corner. And a tap or foul. Kansas City wondered over the last few years what was happening to Billy Butler. The power numbers, the production down 3 straight years. They weren't in position to compete with Oakland for his services for 3 years. 2 strikes. Line foul, and the Royals instead invested in Kendrys Morales for a couple of years. Morales off to a great start. Butler was off to a good start until the skid you talked about. Hitless in 20 at bats, the longest hitless skid of his career. Just 1 hit in 31 at bats. 1 for 3 so far here tonight. 2 strikes.
Again, he's always had good numbers against the Twins coming into this game. A .304 lifetime hitter.
1-2.
8 seasons with the Royals. Made the All-Star team for the Royals in 2012.
Country Breakfast, his nickname. Check to swing. 2-2. Butler really put on the spot. I'm sure many of you know the A's and Royals had some issues when they played each other in Kansas City a couple weeks ago. Weak pop-up right side. Mauer under it. 2 down. Bring up Vogt. Follow Twins baseball all season this year with MLB.com At Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. At Bat is up to the moment at any moment with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcast, statcast, and more. Get MLB.com At Bat for your smartphone or tablet. 2 down, and now Vogt with the bases empty. If the Twins win this game tonight, through 26 games of the season, there will be just 4 teams in the American League with a better record. The 2 teams they're chasing in the division, the Tigers and the Royals, the Yankees, who lost tonight, and of all people, the Houston Astros.
Boy, Houston playing good ball.
18-7. And a 10-game winning streak. They have an off day. Or no, they're playing there in the 9th inning tonight. I beg your pardon.
Arlington or Texas.
Half swing, but a strike.
Rangers in Houston.
Texas has just taken a 2-1 lead in the top of the 9th inning in Houston. Thompson trying to finish off a 1-2-3 7th inning. And he quick pitch it. Strike 3. A 1-2-3 7th with a strikeout at the end. Pitcher quick pitching a hitter.
Yeah, watch right here. Watch Thompson to a vote. Gets the sign. And set and go.
Well, basically, he just went to the windup, it looked like. A quick windup instead of the stretch. And both swings and misses, and he glares out at Thompson like, what are you doing to me? Trevor Plouffe will lead off the bottom of the 7th.
And third pitcher used by Oakland will be Chris Bassett coming in, making just his 4th appearance. 7 1/3 innings. He's given up 5 runs, 3 earned, with 5 walks and 6 strikeouts. Bassett, like all the other A's, in his first season with Oakland.
Just a foot foul. Just 3 hits allowed in 7 1/3 innings, but a lot of walks.
Yeah, Bassett started down in AAA in Nashville, called up on April 23rd.
Off the handle of the bat, foul, 2 strikes. Off the plate, 1-2. Slower breaking ball, and Plouffe strikes out, 1 away. To our carsoup.com trivia question.
Say Hudson.
Barry Zito. Yeah, 2002 Barry Zito won 23 ball games. One down, Kurt Suzuki. Didn't catch Barry Zito back then. knows a lot about the Oakland pitchers of that time. More recent time than that. The roster. Very popular player when he was with the A's. And in relatively a short period of time, he's become very popular here. Two 2-0. Foul back 2-1. Twins said that they considered some other call-ups when it was apparent Oswaldo Arcia was going to be put on the disabled list, and they mentioned specifically Paul Molitor did, Josemiel Pinto, Terry Ryan talked about Eric Fryer. Small flip foul 2-2. Both of them catchers. Pinto's been hitting the ball very well and catching on a regular basis at AAA. So he's a name that might be called up. But it was Eddie Rosario, who was an outfielder. The Twins tried to convert him to an infielder, and now they've moved him back out to the outfield. And we saw a very strong and accurate arm in spring training. So I would expect that Rosario would get a chance to play as soon as tomorrow, being perhaps in the starting lineup. He's a left-handed batter, and the Twins have a couple of lefties to face at the back end of this 4-game series. Popped up near second base. Sogard with the catch. That's out number 2.
This copyrighted telecast presented by the authority of the Minnesota Twins and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. Any accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated at the express written consent of the Minnesota Twins.
I like that. If you're going to come with some Star Wars gear, that at least looks like it will keep your ears warm on a night that's become kind of chilly. Here's Vargas, and he takes strike 1. Individually, the most encouraging thing that's happened here tonight, I think, is Vargas, who got a couple of hits left-handed yesterday, has 2 more today. They haven't been cheap hits. He's hit the ball hard. And a little bouncer back to the mound. And the Twins go down 1-2-3 in the 7th. You're watching the A's and Twins, brought to you by the all-new Chrysler 200, America's import.
Header of activity on Tuesday. It starts on Fox Sports North Plus at 6 o'clock, a special playoff edition of Wild Live to get you ready for game number 3 against the Blackhawks. 6:30, Twins Live from Target Field, and then after both games on Fox Sports North, you can get both post-game shows. Now, back to the ballpark for more Twins baseball.
Good luck to the Wild. Tough loss again last night, and I was watching it. And actually, I was kind of torn last night because I was watching the hockey game, and I was flipping back and forth to A Field of Dreams, which is a movie I've seen probably 100 times, but unfortunately the movie had a happier ending than the hockey game. Aaron Thompson out there for at least the start of his second inning. He had a 1-2-3 seventh. Craig Gentry hitting for Ike Davis. Fouled back. One of the bright spots of the year so far has been Thompson, and not just the overall numbers, but his ability to get both left and right-handed batters out. Thompson giving up a 143 opponent batting average to left-handers and a 182 to right-handers. Inside, 2-1.
He changes speeds well. It comes straight over the top, has that nice hard breaking ball.
Bunt just as Plouffe was backing up. Plouffe was backing up as Thompson was winding up, and almost as if he knew that Plouffe was going to do that, Gentry drops down a bunt base hit.
A couple innings ago, it was Billy Burns that laid down a perfect bunt. That came with 2 outs.
There's Trevor. And now he backpedals, and Gentry drops it down in front of him. Thompson starts the inning, gives up a bunt single, and will leave, with the Twins needing 6 more outs. Fast. Wednesday, it's the 11th annual Kids in the City, celebrating the Fox Sports North Boys and Girls Clubs All-Stars. The event starts with a pregame party at Fulton Brewery, followed by the Twins and A's. Cost is $75, includes food, beverages, and a ticket to the game. Visit foxsportsnorth.com and click on upcoming events on the Hot Topics bar for details.
Lane Boyer coming into the ball game, his 13th relief appearance, as same as Thompson. He worked on Saturday, just a third of an inning, able to get Jose Abreu to pop up. That Twins win over the White Sox.
Driven to right field, and Hunter will play it on a hop, scampering around second to third. And now the A's have something brewing here with the tying run coming to the plate and nobody out.
Laurie jumping on that first pitch, his second hit of the ball game. So a fastball that stayed up, and Laurie hitting it to right field.
Canna at the plate. He homered his last time up. He got a fastball down and in and tattooed it into the second deck. Will concede the run here. They'd love to get a ground ball hit at somebody. And Boyer gets ahead, strike one. The A's have won 6 straight series against the Twins, going back the last 3 years. Michael Tonkin, Brian Dunsing scrambling to get loose in a hurry with Eddie Guardado watching in the background. Suzuki with a nice catch, 1-1.
Yeah, the A's have actually owned the Twins over the last 20 meetings. A's won 17 of those.
Anytime the Twins won last night, Phil Hughes pitched a really good ball game and got the win. He did not pitch a particularly good ball game here tonight. Still might get the win if the bullpen can get 6 outs. 6 more outs. That's a check swing foul, 1-2.
And in his first season with the A's, coming over from the Rocky organization.
One and two. Bouncer to third. There'll be just one play, and Plouffe makes it. A run scores, and Laurie goes to second.
Nice play by Trevor Plouffe on that swinging bunt. Gentry with his speed, he scores. Canton picking up his second RBI. You see Trevor Plouffe playing back, kind of a swinging bunt. Trevor has to come in, get that second hop, and then on the run, flip it over to Joe Mauer for the first out. Laurie going to second base.
One down. Eric Sogard, the batter. 0 for 3. He's hit a fly ball to left, center, and right. Strike one. Slow breaking ball. Saw Tonkin warm up from the right side as a reliever out in the bullpen. Ryan Presley pitched so much yesterday they don't want to use him today. Nice snag by Boyer, and he throws him out. Nice base running play by Laurie, who nearly got trapped off second base, but Boyer stretched out and made a great play.
Yeah, he reached back at the last second, able to snare that ball into his glove for the second out. Ball's almost behind him. He reaches up. Laurie slides back into second base as Boyer checks him out. Gets the out at first.
Burns. Slow breaking ball. Ball one. It looked like Santana was there to make the play and get the out, but if the ball bounces to Santana, Laurie's able to gain third base. So the Twins probably would have gotten an out on the play, but Laurie stuck at second because the pitcher intercepted the bouncer. 1-0. That's to right center field. Schaefer with a tumbling catch. They're saying no catch. The umpire is saying no catch. He's got the ball. And they're saying no catch. It will be reviewed.
I think Schaefer's hurt too.
A clear catch.
Yeah, landed on that right elbow.
First base umpire Todd Tishner ruled it a non-catch, but it'll be very quickly reviewed.
Yeah, he's holding that right shoulder.
Players are asked to not go to the dugout when a play is being reviewed, but a great catch by Schaefer to apparently end the inning.
They just showed it on a big screen.
The Twins are coming off the field. That's a great play to thwart a rally. The A's will get one, but that's it in the eighth.
And the umpire finally says he's out after reviewing it.
Schaefer with a great catch. The A's leave a man in scoring position. It's still a 2-run lead for the Twins. The call is overturned. Take another look.
Field. I'm Jamie Hirsch reminding you to stick around after the final out for Twins Live presented by CenturyLink as we take a look at the Twins bottom of the order coming through tonight, not only with their bats, but how about Jordan Schaefer making that nice play to end the top of the 8th there. We'll also take a look at Phil Hughes' night and break down his ups and downs so far, the pitcher of record, and we will of course bring you inside the clubhouse to hear from manager Paul Molitor after the game.
It's the bottom third of that lineup, Jamie, that will face Bassett here in the 8th inning.
Yeah, Bassett had a 1-2-3 7th inning, starting his 2nd inning of relief.
Hard to left center field. That's got some carry. Off the wall. Burns with a terrible collision with the fence. And Burns is slow in getting up on an Escobar double. He has 3 hits tonight, 1 to each gap, and that one just out of the reach of the center fielder.
Well, they have that chain link fence up there, and Burns gave it a great run, but crashes into the wall, and Escobar again. When he makes good contact, that ball flies off his bat. And luckily Burns okay, looks like. And it's Gentry now in left field that gets the ball back in.
Here is Schaefer. Just about anything can happen in this at bat. Schaefer's got a good night going with 3 hits, but he might be asked to drop down a sacrifice here. Twins would love to get the run back that Oakland scored in the top of the inning. Schaefer swinging away. Strike 1.
Well, Schaefer 3 for 3 in this ball game. He's driven in a couple runs. He has scored a couple runs.
"13 hits for the Twins so far, 8 runs. And Schaefer's been a big part of it. A 2-run score, 2 runs batted in, and a big catch to wrap up the top of this inning. There's the bunt, and it's foul. He was, well, he didn't square. He kind of punched at the pitch to try to reach for a base hit.
Well, you want Laurie, the third baseman, to field that ball. That opens up that back door for Escobar to get to third.
2 strikes now.
But the 6, 7, 8 hitters tonight have 8 of the 13 hits.
Vargas with 2, Escobar with 3, Schaefer with 3, Santana the on deck hitter. Down and away, just missed. 1 and 2. Texas snapped Houston's winning streak 2-1. Check to swing 2-2. Center field position for the Twins is going to get very interesting by season's end. Twins are getting good reports on Aaron Hicks, who entered play today hitting just under 300. Byron Buxton hit a walk-off home run. He was the player of the week in Double-A. Two and 2. And a foul ball. For the time being, it's Jordan Schaefer's job. Shane Robinson splitting with him the duties in center field. Glenn Perkins has a 2-run lead to work with. Full count. Three and 2 to Jordan Schaefer. And he took a walk.
Good at bat.
It's the third walk taken by Schaefer this year. First and second, nobody out.
Yeah, Bassett was ahead 0-2, but Schaefer drew a walk.
Now Santana 1 for 3. He may be asked to bunt. Laurie in on the grass already.
Santana has 3 sacrifices on the season.
Fox Tracks presented by Carrier. Ducks out of the way. Ball 1. Canna is the new first baseman. Remember, Davis was pinch hit for.
Yeah, Canna came in from left field to play first, and Gentry, who pinched hit for Davis, in left.
One and 0 to the Twins shortstop. An offer at it. An appeal. Third base umpire Mike Everett says no, he didn't. 2-0. Santana waiting for a buntable pitch instead of offering it a pitch that is out of the strike zone.
Well, Bassett has to throw a strike. If they're going to give you an out, you have to get that ball over the plate.
Ball 4. Wow. And they're loaded up now with nobody out. A double 2 walks. No activity in the Oakland bullpen, although that will change as we speak. Dozier with 2 doubles, 2 runs batted in. Kurt Young, the pitching coach, out for a visit. Santana his first walk of the year, and it came in a bunting situation.
Yeah, I remember Kurt Young. He was the Oakland A's pitching coach, and he went to Boston for a year, and now back to Oakland again. Really highly respected.
Bases full of Twins, and at first Danny Santana says, so that's how you draw a walk. You want a bunt. There's Dozier, bases loaded, and a chance to bust the game wide open. Ball one.
Big 2-run double in the second inning and the 4-run second inning for Bryant. 2 doubles in the ball game.
Inside 2-0. You have any idea who was playing in the Twins uniforms the first week of the season? Three and 0.
Wow.
Twins couldn't score a run in Detroit. The one they got was an unearned run. And then a strike, 2-1.
Well, they ran into some pretty good pitching.
Yes. Fouled back. And it's 3-2. For the first 7 games of the year, and after the off day on April 14th, this team is 3 outs away from going 13-6. 2-2 to Dozier. A full count.
Boy, Bassett had a great 7th inning, a 1-2-3 inning, and all of a sudden here in the 8th, his second inning of relief, he's struggling throwing strikes.
Walked the last 2 batters, is in danger of walking in a run. Fouled back. Coming into this inning, the 8 and 9 batters, Schaefer and Santana, had combined for 2 walks this year. He walked them both.
Yeah, Bassett this inning, you see 20 pitches, only 8 strikes.
Another 3-2 to Dozier. Struck him out. 1 away. And Torrey. I'll bring up Torrey Hunter, who had a 3-run home run his last time up.
Yeah, Bassett picking up his second strikeout. He fell behind on Dozier. Good sinking fastball, but missing low. And then a bit inside. This called a strike. Now another strike that Dozier fouled off. High fastball. And then just reared back. And on this 3-2 pitch, challenged Dozier and struck him out.
Fastball in the outside corner. Torrey took the first fastball he saw in the 6th, and then clobbered the second one for a 3-run home run. Double play ground, and somehow the ball dropped, but picked up by Canna, and the double play is completed. The Twins don't add a run in the 8th. It'll be a 2-run lead for Glenn Perkins. Glenn Perkins with a 2-run lead. A chance to pick up the save and extend the winning streak for the Twins to 5 games.
Well, he's 8 for 8 in save opportunities. Glenn Perkins, last 10 ball games, picked up his 8th save here on Saturday against the White Sox in a 5-3 win.
First pitch, of course, a fastball. Strike 1 to Semien. Semien, Reddick, and Butler to face Perkins here in the 9th. Foul back, 2 strikes. Twins had one 4-game winning streak last year. They did not win 5 in a row at all during 2014, and they're 3 outs away from enjoying a 5-game winning streak. Chasing. A 3-pitch strikeout, 1 down.
I think most important is they had a great 4-game series against Chicago with Oakland coming in, and their success against the Twins over the last 2 or 3 years. This is a good win.
If they get it, 2 outs away. Reddick the batter. Reddick, every time he's faced Perkins is a walk, and now there's a base hit. Here comes the tying run and Billy Butler. 2 walks, and now a single for Reddick. Time now for What's Next, brought to you by Century Link. Jesse Chavez against Trevor May tomorrow in Game 2. Butler is 1 for 4, a single, and a couple of flyouts and a ground out.
Yeah, Butler 5 hits and 18 at bats against Perkins. One of the hits a double.
Fly ball, right field, a long run for Hunter. It's down the line, and Torrey gets there for out number 2. It would have been a fair ball, and the old man had to hustle to get there, but he got there.
Well, you play Butler deep anyway because of his power, his extra base hit opportunity. Nice running catch by Torrey.
And here's Vogt, who clobbered a 4-run home run in the first inning against Phil Hughes. Paul Molitor trying to get somebody's attention, Joe Mauer's attention. They want him to play behind the runner. They'll let Reddick run to second base if he wants to. And he does, ball 1. What we're starting to see with Perkins throwing a first pitch slider, kind of hitters approaching Perkins like they do Phil Hughes. Go ahead and swing at that first pitch fastball. It might be the best pitch you get. To right field and deep. Hunter back at the wall. It is off the wall. A run will score. Vogt to second, and the A's have the tying run at second.
I tell you what, they got lucky right there. I thought that ball was out of the ballpark. Vogt hit a grand slam in the first inning. It's this ball high off the wall for his 3rd hit. And there's that fastball that left middle in, and Perkins knew it as soon as there was contact.
And if it had been 10 feet over, it would have gone into the overhang for a home run. Here's Gentry fouling the first pitch back. Sam Fuld in the game as a pinch runner. One strike to Gentry. Half swing. 1-1. Gentry with a bunt single and a run scored in the 8th. Foul back. And the A's are down to their last strike. Gentry's 1 for 3 in his matchups with Glenn Perkins.
As he go with a fastball, as he try that hard breaking ball down and in.
It was a 96-mile-per-hour fastball, and it was fouled back.
First run Perkins has allowed since April 13th.
Hold foul. He tried the slider.
And he left that up, and I think Suzuki's going to go talk to him. That was not the downward break slider. Kind of hung right there.
The other run that Perkins gave up was in a tune-up outing. This a meaningful run allowed in the ninth. 1-2. Struck him out.
Better one. That's a good one.
Suzuki dug it out of the dirt. The Twins have extended their early season winning streak to 5 games, and Tom had them an impressive one, down 4-0 before they came to the plate. Didn't take them long to tie it up and then eventually win it.
Dick, the Twins open the month of May with 4 consecutive wins for the first time in 13 years. Up next on Twins Live, we'll talk about the bottom of their order delivering tonight. Phil Hughes, he certainly hung on. We'll hear from Molly, and we'll look ahead to Game 2 tomorrow night.